Welcome to the Maple Leafs Lounge, where the hockey writers, team of writers that cover your favorite team, get together to talk all things Leafs. And I can say your favorite team because it's either your favorite team to cheer and love, or it's your favorite team to hate and bash. And we've been hearing lots of it from both sides all season long. And that chatter just keeps going up. So that's what we're going to be talking about a lot here today. This is episode 2. We had lots of conversations after episode 1. So please subscribe on YouTube for us. Check out all the social media channels for the hockey writers. And of course, head over to the mothership, thehockeywriters.com, to check out all the content from 120 plus writers covering all the teams across the league. And here's two of the greatest. I'll say that right now. We'll see where we're at in a few minutes, though, right, boys?
Oh, definitely.
Peter Baracchini and Alex Hobson jumping on today. So, boys, let's start with the Edmonton series that we're right in the thick of things with for right now. What a performance! 4-0, blanking one of the best duos in hockey with McDavid and Draisaitl. Both of them look so frustrated. What a performance! And let's just start with there. This is a battle for the North Division. Peter, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, you just said it best. The fact that they were able to shut down both McDavid and Draisaitl, at one point, well, they're still in the top 4 and scoring, top 5 at the moment. It just shows what a real team effort that this team has adapted. And this is probably the most complete game that we have seen all season. Yeah, they had like little spurts where they played for like a good 50 minutes, 10 minutes, not so much. But this was a full-on 60-minute effort where all 4 lines were going, defense was coming back, everybody was stepping up and doing their part so much that this is what you wanted to see. This is what people have been expecting of this team for so long, since the whole entire core was coming together right now.
Right. And when you said it was the best 60-minute performance, we'll try to steer clear of the cliches, but it really was. I was thinking of that and trying to look back on it. And you're right. There were a few games where there were periods that were perfect. But for a 60 minutes to put that together and keep those guys off the board to start this very important series was huge. Alex, what are you thinking?
Peter pretty much nailed every single point I would have made. But honestly, yeah, like you can talk about the cliches of calling it a 60-point effort all you want, or a 60-minute effort all you want. But in the end, that really was, I don't think there's anything else you could ask for from the team in terms of an effort like that. I mean, you got the rock solid performance from Jack Campbell in net. You got scoring from all depths of the offense in the absence of Austin Matthews, with Jason Spezza and Zach Hyman both stepping up. Complete defensive effort, no goals were allowed. And I think the biggest part of that game for them was just the fact that they were able to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl. I won't go as far as to say as those two guys are the entire Oilers team, because they do have scoring options outside of those two. But it's a lot harder for them to win games when those two aren't on the score sheet. And I think the Leafs did a great job at shutting them down yesterday.
And, with YouTube and with TV, let's be fully transparent here. We're recording this on Sunday night. So Monday could come along. Monday night could be an absolute thrashing, because I don't see the Oilers being shut down again. This is a team that they're a lot like the Leafs in that way, that if they've got a bad game, we saw the Leafs have a terrible game to start this week on Monday, and they bounce back. Edmonton's like that too. A lot of teams are like that. If you get shelled like that, you're going to come back really hard. So I'm kind of waiting to see what happens on game 2. If game 1 was a fluke and you kind of put a really good team effort together, and now Edmonton's made some adjustments, because I'm sure they're going to, guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you pretty much summed it up too. Like, we're going to expect like a whole different Edmonton Oilers team coming out, because let's face it, seeing both McDavid and Draisaitl be shut out, zeros across the board, back-to-back games, it's a rarity. It's something that you never want to see, or you don't see very often. And I think because they're the go-to guys, they're going to come out flying. And then McDavid, with his speed, with his shot, with his vision, he's going to work his magic. I mean, you never count him out, because he is the best player right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think what was so strange about that was seeing the frustration level They were, and Draisaitl even banged around with Marner on one shift there out of pure frustration. He just had no space out there. Anyway, I think we've got that one covered, but I do think Dave Tippett is going to be making some adjustments, and we'll see, can Keefe keep up with those adjustments. But obviously the big story out of that was the performance of Jack Campbell. I think the team played excellent in front of him, but obviously Campbell had some incredible stops and came up big when he had to come up big. There were still quite a few shots, not all top grade shots, but we're still talking about a great scoring team that he faced, and to blank them 4-0. Alex, I know you're looking at an article on Jack Campbell. So what are you thinking on the whole Campbell storyline right now in Toronto?
So I want to preface this by saying that the absolute last thing I'd ever want to do is rip on Freddie Anderson, because I've lost track of the amount of times that he's bailed out the team in front of him, and the Leafs haven't showed up, and he's been the guy to save the game. And especially for someone like me, like I'm only 21 years old. So Freddie Anderson is the first good goalie I've ever had the pleasure of seeing with the Leafs. I started watching in the Andrew Raycroft days. So yeah, dark days for me, but
rough times.
Yes, no, definitely. So just to add on to that, I mean, as much as I don't like ripping on Freddie, I think the Leafs are at a point this season where you got to run with the hot goalie, because it's only 56 games, right? So they don't exactly have time to experiment. And Freddie's in the final year of his contract this year, and I just don't see a situation where you'd have to, like, you could give Freddie the benefit of the doubt and say, oh yeah, you know, he is our guy. Like we gotta give him most of the starts here. If he's not doing well and Campbell's doing noticeably better, they got to keep rolling with Campbell. And obviously, if you watched last night's game, you can see that he's capable of starting games. Like he looks super calm and collective. He didn't give off too many rebounds. His rebound control was great. And he was drafted 11th overall once upon a time for a reason. Like, I think he's got the tools to be an effective starting goalie in the NHL, and I think the Leafs just got to go with the hot hand from here on out.
I remember when Dubas picked him up, and a lot of the talk at the time was that Campbell was looked at as more of a 1B goalie, not a 2 goalie. And we're seeing that 3 games this year. He's looked very, very good. Do you stay with the hot hand at this point, Peter?
I mean, it's a difficult situation, but yeah, I mean, the fact that you want to try and decrease Freddie's workload, I mean, in an regular 82-game station, that was going to be the plan. That's why they brought in Campbell, to try and decrease the workload for Anderson. This time around, with a lot more back-to-backs, a lot more tight-knit games, and condensed schedules where you're going to be playing a lot of games in so many nights, you want to go to Jack Campbell at certain points to try and, you know, get as many wins as possible. But that shutout, man, this adds fuel to the discussion where, what are you going to do? This is kind of like in Montreal right now. Are you going to go with Jake Allen, or are you going to stick with Carey Price? And it seems like right now, both the backups are making their case to say, hey, you know what? Go with me. I'll get you the wins. I'll do the job that needs to get done every night.
I found Sheldon Keefe's clip on the performance. There was a lot to read into it, and sometimes maybe I read too much into these clips, but he said the guys played hard for him right until the end. They love him as a teammate, and you could see that just in terms of how the guys were talking on the bench and how they went out onto the ice and made sure they did a good job in front of him. That's great. And we know that he's a good teammate, and we've seen all the guys, talk with him, and he's always laughing on the ice and all those things. But why aren't we seeing that type of clip come out after an Anderson great performance, and even Hutchinson for that degree? It's just sounded like a strange clip that they're playing really, really well for Campbell, but are they playing that same defensive style hockey to bail out and make sure that their goalie has the best chance of winning, whoever the goalie is back there? Am I reading too much into that? What do you guys think?
Well, I think there's definitely a little bit of life to that. I mean, the Leafs played, like we were talking about earlier, that was their best 60-minute performance all season. And it's no coincidence that it came in front of Jack Campbell. Having said that, I think just with him coming back after this is his first start since like mid-January, if I recall correctly. And we had all these super wholesome quotes, and he's talking about how great his teammates are. And, every time Jack Campbell's in the dressing room, Kristen Shilton tweets something about how nice he is and a new interaction with the teammate. And I mean, hockey Twitter, Leafs Twitter in particular, just eats that up. So I think there is some life to what you're saying there, Kevin. But at the same time, I think a lot of that could have just been considered fluff in terms of the Leafs just coming out and doing something for a teammate that they really enjoy. Because I know that they really, I won't say they milk it, but they really like to use Jack Campbell's personality to like kind of shape his brand on Twitter and in the media. So I think Keefe was probably just feeding into that when he said that they really wanted to get that win for their teammate.
Fluff around the Leafs for all the media that they get? Never, right, Peter?
No. Yeah, no, never. It's never a dull moment, right? But just one thing to add to that, it's either one or two things. It's either in any situation with a goalie, whether it's Campbell, whether it's Anderson, it's either there's always the offense and everyone in front of the goaltender clicking, doing their job, and then the goalie seems to be on his head, giving up weak goals every now and then. And then it's the complete opposite where the goalie is doing well, and then the players seem to, offense has seemed to dry up. So in that regard, yeah, I think maybe it's a bit of both, but at the same time, that narrative changes up. So maybe it's not necessarily trying to shift the focus or keep the focus on one goaltender, because they have had some bad nights where either goalie is in net and then the goaltender is on his head, and then vice versa. So,
right. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit, because we've got to hand out the 3 stars tomorrow. Again, I'm dating us. We are doing this Sunday night. We always like to get the 3 stars out on Monday morning, the 3 stars of the month. We just started doing this. Last month, I went a little bit different with it. We could always look at just points and game-winning goals and things like that and hand out the stars that way. That's easy, but it's also pretty predictable. So I went a little bit different, and I took Jason Spezza because of everything he had been through in that opening month of hockey, and still to be doing those things. That was even before his hat trick performance, but right after that article, he did get the hat trick. So I don't know. Maybe he's reading the hockey writers.
I think he needs to write another article.
Yeah. I also had Jake Muzzin for his excellent play in the first month, as well as the puck flip into a certain Calgary Flames chest. That deserved a star right there. And of course, Mitch Marner, that had a lot to do with stats, but also the guy is just incredible. So for this month, let's start with throwing out 3 names that you think should be in the 3 stars, or you could throw out 4, and let's discuss and come up with our 3. So Peter, how about you start us off? Who are your 3 stars? And then we'll come back around. So don't reason it just yet, but let's just go with your 3 stars to start.
Counting down, I'm going to do number 3. I'm going to do Frederik Andersen. Number 2, TJ Brody. And number 1, Austin Matthews.
All right. Alex?
All right, so I'm going to use that little rule bending that you said would be okay there, and I'm going to do a 2-way tie for 3rd star. My 3 stars are or 3rd stars are Jake Muzzin and Joe Thornton. My 2nd star is Mitch Marner. My 1st star is Austin Matthews.
Okay. My 1st star is Matthews. I don't think we've got an argument on that one. No. I was going Marner in number 2, and for number 3, I was having a really hard time, honestly. Maybe I need to use that little bending of the rules as well, and we hand out a couple stars in that 3rd. I was actually going with big number 3 Hall right now. He had that goal. Remember the game that none of the big boys scored, but McDermott against Carey Price. McDermott scored, Hall scored. Hall had those great clips after where he said he saw Nylander beaver tailing over there and he let it go anyway, It was a great clip. The guy's been working for 4 years to get to 100 NHL games. And now you look at him this year, he's a solid top 4 defenseman. I think he's been doing a great job out there. Even when Muzzin was injured for a few of the games and they moved Dermott up to that line with him, it was still a pretty solid line, and that was a lot of his work. That's why I was thinking him, but I was also throwing around the same names that you guys have been throwing around. So we're going to have to figure this out. So I've already made my reasoning for the 3rd star. We don't really need to talk about the 1st star. So that's
unless you want to.
There's lots on Matthews. So you guys reason Let's start with Alex. You start your reasoning why you're going Muzzin, Thornton, and Marner.
Well, so Mitch Marner, I think I had him at second star just because anywhere Matthews has been, Marner's been as well. He's taken another complete gear over the month of February, and he's kind of cemented himself right into that Hart discussion along with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Matthews. I mean, they all sit in the top four in scoring, and I think he didn't score as many goals as Matthews did this month, but I think he was on the score sheet just as much. And we've seen him able to produce regardless of who he's playing with. I mean, he had the goal and the assist last night playing with Nylander on first one was on the power play. And then, but even just playing on that line with Tavares and Thornton, he was able to produce. So that's why he's my second star. Joe Thornton, I think it's just because I'm going to go full disclosure and say that when the Leafs originally signed Thornton, I wasn't sure how they were going to use him. And I was a little bit skeptical when they started him on the first line because I just love how well Zach Hyman works with the dynamic duo of Matthews and Marner. But I'm proud to say that he's proven me wrong completely. And he's looked just incredible on that top line. And I think he's taken another gear. He's shown that his legs may not quite be where they used to be, but he still has the hands and he still has the vision. And just his presence in the locker room, I think, is extremely well felt as well. I mean, we all know what his pedigree is and his tendency to speak up and kind of motivate the guys when the going gets tough. And in terms of Muzzin, they only missed out on Muzzin for one game over the month of February, but I think I was talking to Peter about this morning. I'd go as far to say, as of now, he's the Leafs' most important defenseman. I've really liked how he started to produce offensively. He's got 13 points in 20 games so far, and there isn't an area of his game that he lacks. He's physical. He'll stand up for his teammates. He's the go-to defensive guy, and I think that without him on the back end, the Leafs' defense looks a lot worse than it does with him there.
All right, Peter, maybe we'll start this a different way with you because you've got Anderson and Brody in your 3 and 2 spot. Yeah. Why is Marner not in your top 3?
I'm a huge Mitch Marner fan. Not a knock against Mitch. Obviously the points, the plays that he's setting up, the fact that he's scoring a little bit more right now, it's not a knock against him. I mean, just simple as that. It's just I really felt that the way that Frederik Andersen, for my third star, just the way that he handled himself with all those stretches of those games when Jack Campbell was out, the uncertainty of Michael Hutchison as the backup. There were a lot of games where Frederik Andersen stepped up, and he had quite a few games where his save percentage was over 950 after he had a save percentage against 842 against the first game against the Vancouver Canucks. So he stepped up to the plate in terms of getting the Leafs wins, getting them points in that regard. And TJ Brody for me, the second star. When Morgan Rielly's, jumping up into the play quite a bit, where we're seeing TJ Brody on the back end defending 2-on-1s on multiple occasions, and the fact that he's basically one of the top 4 defensemen that the Maple Leafs have been looking for so long. Bit of a slow start in the first few games, but after the third and fourth game, he just started getting more comfortable with his breakout passing, his defensive coverage, breaking up those plays, and even on the penalty kill too. He's a major factor in that regard, and I think this is absolutely one of the best signings for him. And this is obviously not a lot of points, but his defensive play overall just helps him out on the back end.
I think the reason why a lot of people wouldn't jump to TJ Brody right away is because you barely hear his name called in a game. And that's a good thing. Like he's doing his job. He's not being caught out. And, but that's a reason why I don't think he pops into a lot of people's heads right away as like a top, as a 3-star of the month. But yeah, you're right. The guy's working his tail off and it's showing up for sure. I think the reason that I would say I would keep Anderson and Thornton out of this month is because of they didn't play every game. They didn't. Hutchinson got in a few games, right? Obviously, Campbell got some games. So that's how I would eliminate Anderson from the running on this one. Hopefully he shows up a little bit later on in the year and we can put him in there. I'm sure he would love it. I don't know if we send a gift certificate or what. We'll let Alex take care of that. And yeah, we got to get a defenseman in there. So we've either got Brody, Muzzin, or Hall. It's funny that all 3 of us have picked a different defenseman. So I don't know. I don't know what we do about that.
Not to be the yes man here, but I will not complain over any defenseman. I think all three of them are worthy of being named in the top three, and I think you guys made some pretty compelling cases for the guys I didn't name. So
yeah,
I know that doesn't help us at all.
no, and I could take the easy route and just, I get to write this stuff, so maybe I just say the third star goes to these three defensemen, and we'll see. Will anyone really complain?
The defense.
Yes. It's nice to have that.
It is.
For so long, you're talking about the Raycroft years. For so long, there was you could not name three defensemen that are worthy of a monthly star. That's for sure. Am I right, Peter?
Absolutely right. You might have to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo on this one. So,
all right. So we hope you like what you're seeing so far here. Please like, subscribe. I don't know where I'm going to be on the box on YouTube, but like, subscribe wherever I am. Make sure to follow the Hockey Writers on all of our social media channels on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I think we still have MySpace. That's too old for Alex, isn't it?
Nope.
And and of course, head over to the website, thehockeywriters.com. Okay, so I don't want to be the dark cloud here. We talked about some great players, and that's great that we've got a lot of great players to talk about. There's somebody that's, to me, I am surprised every time I see him in the lineup. We're going back and forth during the game when he appeared, because the thought was that Nick Petan was in that spot going into Edmonton, and there he was, Jimmy Vesey, back on the ice again. He has not been scratched yet, but he is not I've watched every game, every shift. I'm not seeing anything out of him that is worthy of keeping that spot, especially when we're seeing a lot of these other players that are getting chances that really seem to be producing. Then I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, a lot of people could look at Mikheyev and say, well, he doesn't have points either. He's not doing this either. But if you've watched the games, we all know Mikheyev is awesome out there most nights. His speed is keeping the defense on their toes and push back on their heels a lot. So I don't think he's in this VC discussion. I think Jimmy VC was brought in as a project. His dad is with the Toronto Maple Leafs scouting staff. I don't know if it was a favor after a horrible time in Buffalo, not such a great time in New York, but the VC project to me has got to end. It's time he goes to the taxi squad, maybe even down to the Marlies to get a little bit of confidence, as I've not seen any. Tell me I'm wrong, but I hate to be the critical one here, but you guys take it. What are you guys seeing with VC? We'll start with you, Peter.
Yeah, it's interesting because Keith recently just mentioned something about how, he's not doing anything offensively, but defensively on the other side of the puck, he's good positionally, breaking up and, trying to break up all those plays in his own end. But when we did a roundtable at the beginning of the season where we picked out like a player in the lineup, and VC was on with Tavares and Nylander, I picked Jimmy VC as someone that could possibly benefit from playing with those two. They're elite players. He had, a good stint in New York, some up and downs, but he shown to score the puck quite a bit. And, it just wasn't working out. And Kevin, you just mentioned the Toronto Marlies. Maybe he goes down for a stint, maybe to try and find his game down there. But there's also quite a few players that can be brought up in that regard to try and replace Jimmy VC if, that's the direction they want to go. I mean, Tyler Gaudette, he has 9 points in 8 games. Nick Robertson, just under a point per game. Adam Brooks, point per game player right now. Joey Anderson, 5 points in 8 games. So you have options to try and replace Jimmy VC if he does go down and you want to bring someone back up. But yeah, even Alexander Barabanov, he's impressed the past 2 or 3 games getting his looks, and he's playing in the top 6 at some point. So it's going to be interesting to see how this will unfold, but it's not looking very good, I don't think.
No, and I think that's the thing. It's the three of us, we watch every game, every shift, and see the replays, and we're watching for different things to write our stories. And like you said, you took some interest in VC when he got there, so I'm sure you pay attention when you see 2-6 on the ice. I do too, because I keep on waiting for what is Keith seeing in this kid that keeps him on the ice. And I'm not seeing it. like you said too, with Barabanov, I thought he played excellent. That speed again, it's so difficult to deal with. Alex, what do you think of VC? Is the project over? Where would you put him at this point?
Like I said, I really hate to rip on VC. I feel like I sound like the old prof right now. I just love everyone. But
that's okay. That's okay.
Truth be told, like I was rooting for VC heading into this season. I mean, he's only a couple years removed from scoring 17 goals with the New York Rangers, and I remember hearing on his way into camp, he was saying he was going to come out there like his hair was on fire, and only making 900,000 this year. So of course I wanted him to do well, and I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised when they started him with Tavares and Nylander, because I thought it would be a perfect position to get him going. But I mean, 3 goals in 21 games is just like, you can't really defend that. And sure, I know Keefe says he's been doing pretty well defensively, but I'm not sure if that black hole on the fourth line, or just from Jimmy Vesey in general, is enough to warrant keeping him in the lineup, even if he has been playing well defensively. And truth be told, I think I've noticed that the Leafs are taking a very cautious approach with the way that they're treating Alex Galchenyuk. I think they're trying to set up Galchenyuk in a way where, if you saw the other day, they just sent him to the Marlies. Give him a couple games down there to kind of get his confidence back, like you were saying they might do with VC, Peter. And I think that once Galchenyuk's ready to go for a look in the NHL lineup, I think VC's going to be done by that point. And it's unfortunate. I wanted to see him do well, but he hasn't really done enough to impress and warrant keeping him in the lineup.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't think there's you're going to find somebody that's a true hockey fan that wasn't hoping that VC could turn it around. He's been working hard, and to have that huge slip from where he was to where he is, Dubas gives him a chance. It's just not showing up yet. So mental game, hopefully he can get it figured out. I think he's going to have to get it figured out in the AHL though. And Peter, like you said, there are so many options in that Toronto forward pool right now. I know everybody loves Nick Robertson. Everybody, wants Nick Robertson back. I still say leave him with the Marlies and let that develop a little bit more. Let's not rush the kid. But Nick Patan was very good. I was surprised when he showed up, and he was very good. There's some guys there that VC's just not at that level right now. So, and Keefe has been monkeying around with the lines all year long. And now VC slipped all the way down to that fourth spot from, you guys said he started second line. And I think it's a matter of time before he's on that taxi squad and down the road. So unfortunate, but hopefully he can find it with the Marlies. We know they've got a great development staff there. So hopefully that he can turn around there. Okay, gentlemen, let's wrap up what we saw in the last week and then look forward to this crucial week with some North contenders on the line. So when we remember last week, and so much happens with the Maple Leafs and in hockey in general, but especially the Maple Leafs, it was a week ago when they had maybe one of their worst games. It was not fun to watch that game. I think they've just got the Mondays, because that was 2 Mondays in a row that they played pretty bad hockey. A 3-0 loss to Calgary was bad, though, especially against David Riddick. That he's one of those guys you either love or hate. I'm on the hate kind of side. Sorry, old prof. I know it's all kumbaya, but that was a tough one to watch. But they've kind of bounced back. I just think they don't like Monday games, which the Oilers, because if you remember, it was that Ottawa game that they lost 6-5 in overtime. That was a Monday as well. I don't know about Monday. We might find out against the Oilers on Monday this time around too. We need to talk to the schedule maker maybe and get some postponements on Monday.
No more Monday games.
Yeah. So what do you guys think out of the last week? We saw a few different versions of the Leafs.
Truth be told, I think for that Monday game, they were pretty much due for a stinker at that point. They had a lot of players missing, and it didn't help that they ran into Mika Kiprusoff wearing a David Riddick jersey. So I think
before your time.
No, he was right in the prime of when I started watching. I think he retired in what, like 2010 or something, 2011.
Yeah, around
I
there.
caught the tail end of his career. But no, yeah, I think they were due to have a slip up game like that, and I think they responded well in that game on Wednesday against Calgary. I mean, I know it was looking kind of bleak until William Nylander scored and then scored again in overtime, and I think that game not only gave Willie a boost, but it gave the entire team a boost. And I think we saw that in full force on Saturday. And while I don't think Monday's or tomorrow, like maybe today's game, is going to be a kind of like a walk in the park like Saturday's was, I think they have potential to come out and win again. I think they're on a good pace right now, and I've really liked the way they've been playing after that Calgary game last Monday.
All right, Peter, in the same boat?
Absolutely. Yeah. That game again, the Monday game where they lost 3-0, 5, regulars are out of the lineup due to an injury. You really can't fault them for that. They tried to battle back after a slow first period in the second. Didn't quite work out, but they came out with a better effort in the second game. And, I'm just basically repeating what Alex said, that game was what William Nylander needed. And you could fault him, or people are going to look to the Andrew Mangiapane goal where, Nylander was right there, easily could have tried and tied his stick up, and then 1-0 Calgary. And if Nylander didn't score, that's probably what, mainstream media would probably be talking about at this point, right? But good thing for Nylander getting into the dirty area in front of the net, hitting that loose puck in, and then scoring a beautiful goal past Riddick for the game winner. I mean, out of all the players, 2 players needed to boost the confidence. Tavares, I think he got that, in the game against Edmonton with the 2 assists, but William Nylander needed those 2 goals to try and get back, and it worked out because he scored again on the opening power play on a nice setup from Mitch Marner. So, it's going to be interesting to see how things will unfold. They're like Alex said, they're on a good pace. They could try and keep it going. Majority of the regulars are still in, minus, depending on what's going to happen with Austin Matthews and his wrist. And, hopefully when Wayne Simmons comes back, they go on another tear because he's another catalyst for this team right now.
I think, I guess I'll take the dark cloud on this one again. What really stuck out and was somewhat concerning to me after that Calgary game, and I wrote an article on it, was the mindset of the Leafs. Keefe came directly out and said, our mindset was wrong. We expected bad things to happen, and they happened. That to me that needs to be addressed a lot. And if you guys watch those Leaf Blueprint shows and things like that, it's obviously a lot of sports psychology is going on there. But that one needs to be addressed because you did have all of the leaders. I realized there were a lot of injuries. But you did have every guy that wears a letter was in the lineup still, and they couldn't change the mindset on the bench. They couldn't say, come on guys, this is Riddick and net, let's light them up. Like that was concerning. And I know that Keefe is a great mental type coach. So I'm sure that's being addressed. It was probably a good time to get that one out of the way and say, look what happens if you guys come out thinking it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. So, it's a learning process right now that they're on, but Edmonton 2 and Vancouver 2 this week. I don't know what's going on in Vancouver. I don't know what to expect when they get to Vancouver. That team is, I don't know. I don't even know how you attack that team right now because they're so wrong some nights and good some other nights. So that one's going to be an interesting one to prepare for as well.
I mean, if I'm able to stay up, because by 10 o'clock, I'm already dozing in and out. So I'm going to try and stay up and watch those games. But yeah, I mean, the games against the Oilers, obviously we're going to expect them to come back for the second and third game. But the Vancouver series, this is something that you want to pay attention to, because for 2 straight games previously, Toronto dominated the Canucks. And then in the third game, they were on their heels. They came out flying, but Toronto still came out with a win. It's weird how things unfold, how it unfolded at that point. But I'm trying to think and look forward to. I really don't have an answer, but I'm just hoping that Toronto can still take the momentum, whatever the outcome is out of this Edmonton series, still apply it. You know that things are going to turn around or still keep going. Austin Matthews is going to come back eventually at some point. His injury is not severe. So they're still going to be in the same boat or in a good boat. The Canucks need to figure things out because they just keep going down the standings, and it's going to be a lost season for them. If basically every series is going to be a playoff series and they need to win and put their best foot forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dangerous team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you mentioned there was 3 games, because that one that they stumbled was when they went back to that 7 defenseman strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time we saw the 7 defenseman strategy. So hopefully they don't roll out the 7 defenseman strategy again against Vancouver.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be a fun week to watch. As we said, this team is so much fun to watch because of those reasons. And gentlemen, I know you're both in the East. I'm in the West. So I'll make sure to cover all the shifts, watch everything, because these games are on nice and early for me still. So I've got us covered for that. But make sure, if you like today's show, to subscribe to our channel. Head over to the social media channels, the hockeywriters.com website as well. There's lots of comment sections in there. We always like to hear from our readers. This is why we do it, to talk to each other, to get different views, different angles, and talk to the hockey fans about this great team that we all like to either love or hate, right? Gentlemen,
Definitely.
we will see you next week with, I'm sure, so much more to talk about once again.